Hi, I'm Liz Cully, and welcome back to Cool, Cool, Cool. Each week, I give you a glimpse into what I think is cool and chat with a ton of people that are definitely cool. No topic is off bounds unless, I guess, it's not cool. Welcome to Cool, Cool, Cool. My guest today is a fellow podcaster, one half of the podcast Homophilia, which has become really, I think, one of the longest standings and biggest queer podcasts ever. I had the pleasure of being a guest a couple years ago. Matt McConkey. And I pause because, you know, those names you are very nervous about mispronouncing. Well, Matt, you've got a last name that I'm scared to mispronounce. But Matt is lovely. He's an actor. He also has a new podcast called And Just Like Matt, which is all dedicated to Sex in the City. What gay man doesn't love Sex in the City? My brother, I guarantee you he's never even watched it, but whatever. What's really fun about this episode is that we end up talking about one of the characters in And Just Like That. Karen is her real name, and she plays Naya, and she's also in The Morning Show. And Matt and I recorded this episode, and like a day or two later, I ended up meeting Karen at a work event, which was really, really fun, and getting her perspective on shooting both of those huge shows at one time. So I obviously wish I had met her before we had recorded, but it was really fun. You'll hear us talking about her. But that's a little fun, like drop it like it's hot moment from me. But Matt is a love. We also share a deep, deep love for our acupuncturist, Russell. But yeah, enjoy the show. How does one get to create and start like one of, now I would say, the press junket stop off for all queer folk podcasts?
You're asking me?
Yeah, you have it. Homophilia is like one of the biggest queer podcasts ever.
Sometimes it feels like we are, and sometimes it feels like everyone has forgotten about us. But I don't know. I mean, just the Dave Holmes of it all certainly helps.
How did you and Dave Holmes meet?
It was a matchmaking thing, like you were saying. At the time, we followed each other on Twitter, and I was a fan, of course. And I had just done like a little podcast miniseries about, do you remember Finding Prince Charming?
Of course I do. Lance Bass,
yes,
if I remember correctly.
That's right. Yeah. I had just done like a weird little miniseries about that called Rock Bottom. And and Dave we just exchanged pleasantries. Like he liked that and I loved his book, but that was the extent of it. And then when I asked Earwolf about having my own ongoing podcast, and I was like, I want to do just like a queer interview show, which at the time strangely felt like an original idea. And they were like, we love that idea.
I think it was back then an original idea.
Well, yeah, I mean, this was over 6 years ago, maybe. I don't know what year it was, but they were basically like, we love that idea. You're not enough. Like, who else can we bring in? And I was like, every funny gay person I know already has a podcast. I don't know. I got no one. And they were like, what about Dave Holmes? And I said, well, I love Dave Holmes. Sure. I mean, he's not going to do it. I think he already has 3 podcasts. And then he said yes, because he'd wanted to do a similar thing. So he really elevated the proceedings. Like it turned into a much better show, just because I was with a real interviewer who is so brilliant, but just so like polished and puts everyone at ease and isn't like a bumbling weirdo like I can be.
Same. I'm the bumbling weirdo.
Oh, hardly.
But you know, Dave Holmes is polished in that awesome, just peak MTV era where you've got a touch of Kurt Loder like delivery.
Yeah.
And yet you at least are cool. Do you know what I'm saying? 100%. Like you like can deliver the news, but you're not a fucking cornball.
Exactly.
You got a little something. Like, you know that perhaps they're hungover or like just did a little cocaine or are like MTV Spring Break just trying to survive, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, polish is maybe the wrong word because it implies
No, he is
slickness.
polished.
But he's not slick. He is not that person. Like he's coming in with a warm authenticity. You know,
Has there ever been a time where you've been incredibly intimidated by Dave on your podcast?
God, that's such a good question. I know, but I expected to be before I knew him.
Right.
I was like, oh, so that's going to be the dynamic. I'm going to be the Robin to his Howard. And by the way, what an honor. But like, am I even going to be able to hang with him? Am I going? And it just quickly became obvious that like we're bringing different things to the table, and that's okay. And my whole life's work, Russell could tell you this, is just accepting that what I'm bringing to the table is enough in every
Oh my
circumstance and
God, are
every
we the
environment.
same
I think we
person? Is
might be.
this why Russell was like, you and Matt will love each other? I mean, I was deeply jealous when I saw that Russell, and for those listening, the OGs will know exactly who Russell is. Russell is the best acupuncturist in the whole universe.
Hmm.
And Matt and I share him as a friend and as a practitioner. But I saw that he was on your podcast, and that's where it all like jumped off. And I was like, what? You went on? I am too intimidated to interview Russell. I don't know what I can't, it's hard. I can't charm Russell because he knows my ways, you know?
Same. I know it's so weird to be like, you've seen me in sob like snot onto your pillows about the strangest things that were like drudged up during an acupuncture session. Like, how am I going to try to interview
Oh,
you?
are you a crier in
Oh,
acupuncture?
100%. Are you not?
I'm pretty dead inside. Do you want to? I'll bring everybody in. I don't know if I'm like violating HIPAA, but I can't even fall asleep. His big thing is he's like trying to get me to relax and go out, and I
Mm.
won't. So every time I'll come around the corner and he's waiting for me, just like a ray of light in his beautiful white box,
Mhm.
and I'm like, "You didn't get me." He's like, "Arr!" I've cried like once, and I think that's
Wow.
just because, yeah, I know, you would think I have so much to cry over, but
But maybe it's also
no,
you go so regularly and I go so sporadically that like stuff builds up and you're just keeping it,
buried
cleaned
deep.
out. Oh, I
No.
mean,
I'm on so many antidepressants, I can't cry. That's the other fucking annoying
mm,
thing. I like want to. Sometimes I'm like, "Ah!" You like try to like force it out, but it just won't come because I'm just like, I've cried all the tears
yeah,
that I needed to cry.
that's okay.
And
It's
then when I
overrated.
cry, I like really cry.
Here's my question. Well, you probably don't experience this with Russell because you're so close, but what I meant to ask him when he was on the podcast, and I can't believe I didn't, because I can never ask him this when I see him for an appointment. It's just too weird. Is like you go in, you sit down, you have like the most cathartic mini therapy session of your life. Then the actual treatment starts, also very cathartic and trippy and amazing. You come out and you're accusoned, you're like stumbling out of there, you're feeling so good, and Russell is at the front desk, like, "Hi, give me your card." He swipes it. He's like, "Hi." It's like you just made sweet, sweet love, and afterward, he's like, "Bye bye, you gotta
I know,
go."
but that's what I do when I make sweet, sweet love. So I'm telling you, we are like one and the same. We are twin flames.
Well,
I usually make him sort of laugh and then I like ask about Giorgio. I mean, listen, I know it is true. You're so right, though. It is the most transformational. I will tell you this. I don't know if I've ever talked about this on my podcast, and this is definitely not what I meant to ask you, but here we are.
okay.
I was sleeping. I wouldn't even call it dating. I was sleeping with this guy that I actually met at a swingers party.
Oh,
I was there with another woman who's very hot. Her name's Julia. If you're listening, hi, Julia. She's definitely not listening, but whatever. And I had seen him there and he was super handsome, toned, whatever guy. So I somehow exchanged numbers with him and I want to go out on a date. And what he did for work was very unclear.
hmm.
Like, I think he might have allegedly sold drugs. I think he might have allegedly been involved in illegal activity. But I know what he was definitely involved in was this weird, like, Ayurvedic sex, like, yoga cult in San
Whoa.
Francisco. Yes. Oh, yes. Which I didn't know. And I was pretty impressionable. I was like 23, 24. I mean, as impressionable as Liz Cully can be, I should say. And whatever, we like started sleeping together, which was great, but it was like really intense. And I know this sounds insane. I know this does not make any sense. So lock me up, if you will. I felt like he was reading my brain sometimes when we were having sex.
Wow.
I would be like thinking about something and he would say something and I was like, what the fuck? So one day he's like, you have so much anxiety, as most 23-year-old women in the world do. Come to see my practitioner in San Jose. I was living in San Francisco, where I'm from. And I didn't have a car. So I borrowed my mom's Volvo, and I think this was like MapQuest. You know what I'm saying? I have like all the papers, like trying to figure out where it is. And I go with him to go see this like 150-year-old, one of the most sought out after acupuncturists, like from China, like incredible guy. And that was the weirdest, most fucked up, crazy experience I have ever been in my life. He separated us in different rooms and practiced us both. And he said to me, like, you can't handle this guy. Like, you got to get away from this guy. And like, you have so much.
The acupuncturist is saying this about the guy you're sleeping with.
Yes. This like 100-year-old Asian man is like telling me to stay away from this like hot yoga sex cult guy who had been his patient or whatever for what he had told me 10 plus years. He was like, it's not good. And he like did all this energy work on me. And that is when I actually sobbed. I was like, I felt crazy and I drove home and never called him again.
And any moment now, I'm sure a documentary about his cult is coming out.
Oh my God. If I see one more cult documentary, like Twin Flame, Lovers Loves, like Queen of the whatever, God, Mother Earth. What in the world is going on with these people who are just blindly going on Facebook and giving these wackadoos that like, live on Waikiki Beach all of their life savings? Can you explain it to me? Because I can't.
I mean, I often watch just because I want to be like part of the conversation. Like, I just want to be able to chime in with my hot take when I'm out with everyone else is watching it, but it does get so boring. It's like, how are there still, we're so saturated with just cult documentaries. How are there even enough cults to begin with to provide for that like part? I don't, did you see any of Mother God though?
I watched 15 minutes of it and I was like, first of all, this movie or this film, the series key art is very misleading. This woman does not look like this. 2, I'm like, this lady is crazy. I just, listen, it sucks because obviously these people are vulnerable and they're going through things, but I'm like, well, I don't know. I mean, listen, I grew up in the age of the 90s of like the chat room, and I definitely was in a couple of AOL chat rooms where I was like, I think like this is becoming a episode of To Catch a Predator. Mm-hmm. Like you got to have that spidey sense, and perhaps these people don't have the spidey sense, you know?
I don't know. I read this book Cultish by Amanda Montell, and it's so good. And she's I think she's a linguist, and it's all, and her sort of thesis is like, everybody thinks that anyone who can fall into a cult of any kind is gullible or stupid, and her argument is like the secret to successful culting is all in using like language that makes people feel like they're a part of your community. I mean, she's obviously going to articulate it a lot better than I can, and it's pretty convincing. But then you watch something like Mother God, and you're like, but these people are just dum-dums. There is, and
it's like low budge. Like, listen, if I'm going cult, I'm going like Keith Raniere. Like, yeah. I want the fancy, like, I am a bougie bitch. Always. So I would even argue, give me standard westernized religion. Perhaps that's the bougiest cult that I should be a part of. But no, Mother Earth, that seemed real low budge, and they all seemed like ding dongs. You were
pretty
correct.
Janky. When I first moved to LA and I was so desperate to be an actor, like if a Scientologist had made a successful pitch to me about how that would have helped my career, 1,000% would have given them everything, but they just didn't know to target me at my most vulnerable. So
You
it was
weren't
a
just
fail.
walking around Thai Town, Silver Lake. You weren't right there.
No, no, I was in the wrong areas, and
Where were you?
I was in West Hollywood. I was at the
Well,
center
that
of
uh,
Ghost Town. No, those
that's the
different
problem.
cults.
You were at
Cult all its
Mickey's.
own. I
That's
was
a
at
whole different
Mickey's.
cult.
Yeah.
So is that how you started? You came to Los Angeles from where?
Well, from New York, but I was in New York for college. I'm from Ohio. When I came here, I liked saying that I was from New York because it was like technically true, but I'm from Ohio, but the part of Ohio that like Hillbilly Elegy is set, those are my people. That's my
That's why you
culture
have such clear skin.
that I that no, that's the Zoom touch up filter. But thank you for
Mm,
saying that.
you're so welcome. So you came here to be an actor. Had you been doing theater in New York? You
Yeah.
strike me as a theater person.
Yeah, I was a theater major and came here to be a movie star. Shockingly, that didn't happen. But
Same, baby. Same.
wait, were you an actor?
Oh yeah. I was like a kid actor.
Oh, really?
Hmm. But
What
like
kind of
not a
stuff?
successful one. Theater. I did like American Conservatory Theater in San Francisco, Marin. Like I did all the Marin plays. Like I went to boarding school for acting, got into a
Wow.
very big fight with my theater teacher, didn't pursue that. And then went back to San Francisco and I crushed at commercials.
Oh, I'm
Crushed and
sure.
came down here thinking I was famous because I got booked on something pretty big. And then I didn't realize that you have to like actually shoot it. It has to test and it then has to go to network.
Hmm.
I was like, I'm rich, bitch. And I was like, I should have stayed having sex with that like 40-year-old yogi dude. I probably would have been better off,
Do
quite
you still
frankly.
do it? Act, that is, not have sex with the yogi
No,
dude. No.
no, I don't. I was like right there.
Hmm.
Right there. And like had a couple of really good I just like lost steam. I was like, I can't keep paying to go see casting. Remember that whole racket where you'd like
Hmm.
go pay to see the casting directors? I couldn't get thin enough. I got dropped by Gersh. I was like, everybody can get fucked. I was so little. I was so skinny. I was so tiny. I had to make money. And I was like bartending and, doing whatever. And an opportunity came to go work at MySpace and I took it.
Smart.
My whole life changed.
Yeah, I mean, at the time, I was so just like desperate for it that obviously that is very appealing when you walk into a room for an audition. Just like the sheer thirst that I was coming in with, and just like fucking insanity. I don't know, the ideas that I had around what every single potential job would mean for my life. Because I was also so broke, and it was like
So broke.
I'm like suffering just because I mean, it was a form of gambling, really. It was just like this like delusional belief that this one thing was going to change. But I think I'm like back into it now that I'm older, and it's a lot better because I'm not delusional and I'm not as obsessed with like becoming famous or comparing myself to everyone. I've already accepted that everyone is doing a lot better than me, and I'm perfectly happy that way. But I was just such a late bloomer that that kind of endeavor, like trying to start an acting career, was like, who the fuck am I kidding? You know?
Well, okay, we need to unpack a couple of things that you just said.
Oh, let's do it.
We'll start from the back and roll to the front. So, first of all, I think queer people are late bloomers. I did an interview yesterday and we talked about this in terms of like even parenthood or marriage or like settling down. We have a lot of adult things to figure out typically when either we're children, teenagers, or early in our 20s,
Mhm.
right? Like it's a lot. I didn't really come out until my mid-20s. I mean, whatever that even means. I didn't really have a coming out. I mean, I did with my mom, but that was like dark. And that was when I was 28. And I had already been like living in LA for 4 years, like, just fucking swimming around with a bunch of chicks at that point anyway. So, and men. So it was, whatever. I had to kind of get through all of that and what I wanted. And then even career wise, I think it sometimes can take queer people a little bit longer to figure out because listen, things have greatly changed. Billie Eilish is like chastising variety for talking about her, sexual orientation and what have you. Like, we're in a different time. Gen Z thinks we're all a bunch of fucking losers for talking about the struggles of coming out, which I vehemently disagree with. I think it's important to know our history and our elders, but that's a whole nother podcast and conversation. But I think even in jobs, it's like my big thing when I was acting is and especially when I was kind of trying to come out down here, is that even some casting directors who are a lot of gay men would know me from like queer spaces, but I'm going out for the straight love interest, and that's definitely clouding what they're thinking, and vice versa. You know what I mean? It just like wasn't clicking and wasn't working. And so that's one thing. Two, a lot of other people are doing a lot better than you. What are you talking about? You have like 2 network produced podcasts. We haven't even, we're 20 minutes in. We haven't even talked about your Sex and the City podcast, where you have every like actor and comedian extraordinaire on that you're doing, and it has your name in the title. I was even too much of a fucking wimp to put my name in the title of this podcast.
I was just that much of a narcissist, I guess.
No, it's because you've been doing a big podcast for 6 years. You know a bajillion people. Like, come on, Matt.
Listen, I know you're right. I mean, things are good. I'm happy,
And you're acting again, or you're auditioning again.
Yeah. I'm getting back out there, and it's as humiliating as ever. But I don't know. I don't like live and die by it. The way
Listen, Neil Patrick Harris was only going to have so much time. It's your time to shine. Okay.
I don't know what it is, but yeah, I know what you're saying. It's like, especially back in the day, like the mid-aughts, when I was really like doing pilot seasons and that kind of thing. It was, it wasn't that long ago. It wasn't really a time you could be out if you were because I was sort of trying to put myself into like a poor man's John Krasinski box. I was like, I can pass for straight, and so I have to really stay in that lane. And I was very encouraged to stay in that lane, but I was also like pouring around at the bars every single night, and so it did come back to bite me a couple of times. I had a manager that sort of swept me off my feet, who dumped me the minute she found out that I was gay. And I was like, at least wait to find out that I'm not a good actor and then dump me for that or something like that. I didn't even get a chance to blow it.
Oh my God, was it my mean agent at Gersh? She sucked. Whatever. She found out I was gay and was like, what are we going to do about your hips? I'm like, I don't know what we're going to do. Break them? Like, remove them? Like, I know people remove ribs, but like, what?
Jesus.
Yeah. Listen, 10 years ago was a different time. Yeah. Like, things are very different than they were. Did you ever, you say it came to bite you in the ass, but like, how out of body, or was it just a character? Was it to try to play like a heterosexual love interest?
Oh my God.
In the show.
It was.
Were you like, what am I doing right now? Like, could you,
It never, I couldn't really do that authentically. Like, the one thing you kind of need to act well. And it's not that I don't think gay people can play straight and vice versa and all. I just wasn't good at it. I became even more obsessed with how I looked and how I sounded than I already was as just a queer person living in LA. I'm just like putting myself under an even harsher like microscope, and it wasn't a healthy way to be. I remember this one. There was like my most desperate. I mean, this wasn't a straight role, but there was a kind of a game show called Gay, Straight, or Taken. Does that ring a bell?
Oh my God, yes.
And so the woman would have to go out on 3 dates with 3 guys, and then she would have to guess which one was gay, which one was straight, and which one was taken. Which is also, you can be more than one of those things, but the idea was it was a single gay guy, a single straight guy, and a taken straight guy. And so they needed guys, actors, to be the dudes, somebody who could theoretically be any of those 3 things. And the audition for that was the darkest chapter.
Was that an MTV show?
I don't even know if it feels like it was jankier than MTV, but I had to.
What's jankier than mid-aughts MTV?
Yeah.
True Life, fucking I've had 42 children, like all
You're
those
right.
teen moms, like we're gonna look it up.
It would have been
Gay
perfectly at home.
straight taken. I have to Google it. Reality. Oh, only one season
Shocking.
of this. Lifetime. That
Lifetime. I
tracks.
knew it was even jankier than MTV. We found the
That
one
tracks.
thing that was even. And so the audition was like, okay, so imagine that you are on like a party boat with your date, and you've had a few drinks, and maybe the shirt comes off, and you're dancing, and you're just kind of like feeling it. And so they turn on Justin Timberlake, Senorita, in the audition room. They're filming me, and I take my shirt off and do my best, like rowy kind of like arms in the air,
Wave him around like you just don't
dancing. It
care.
was just
Oh.
like so
I'm so sorry.
beyond.
I don't even. That's
Well,
crazy.
and here's the worst part. I got a call that I got the job, and the money wasn't even. It was like $300 or something. Which at the time
yeah.
I was like, but I need that. That's for a day. $300 for a day. You kidding? And one of my friends was like, I forbid you to do this. This is the one thing that is beneath you. And I was like, I don't know if it is. Thank God I listened to them.
Why? That would be. You don't think that'd be like a really fun thing to Google?
It would be.
I guess dark.
Yeah, it would be dark. I mean, listen, those casting people saved the audition video. Love to see it.
Wow.
Great blackmail material.
Wow. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for bringing that into a safe space.
Thank you for creating
a
container for that.
I mean, I did an American Apparel ad.
Whoa.
And I survived. I came out alive.
And what did you have to do?
I flew down from San Francisco. There are pictures on the internet somewhere. And I'm in white underwear, like cotton,
like
and
the briefs.
Yeah, no, not not like shorts, but like underwear, full back. And I'm wearing like a white little triangle bra. And they had me playing with like a little car.
Oh,
it looked so porn voyeuristic. The amount of weird modeling I did on Model Mayhem, like.
What's Model Mayhem?
You don't know what Model Mayhem is?
No.
Ooh, Model Mayhem is where only the strong survive. It is like a Craigslist for modeling.
Oh, shit.
It's dark. I did do a couple of cool things. I met like one or two cool people. I actually met a guy who ended up doing a Citibank ad and was like in magazines, and that was fine. But most of it is like amateur photographers looking for models to do softcore porn or like artistic modeling. My wife thinks it's the funniest. She calls them my nymph photos. I have some. I should pull them up of me naked, but like butterflies and flowers just glued to my body.
Wow.
Oh, so crazy. I'll get your cell phone number after this and text them to you. It's unhinged. I'm actually sort of glad that they survived. Like one photo is like me in like saran wrap.
Oh my God.
It's crazy.
I mean, as long as it wasn't too traumatizing, I'm sure there's something good about having like a photo.
I will never look that
really
good again. I will never. I was 21. I will never look like that again. I looked great. My body was tight.
Sure.
And I hated my body, of course, at the time and thought I was so fat. And I'm like, oh my God. I would empty my 401k to look like that again. Permanently.
Listen, I don't even have to see the pictures to tell you. I would too.
You would, yeah, we would all. So speaking of looking back on the past, most chaotic segue, you have a new-ish podcast, newer than Homophilia, called And Just Like Matt, which I obviously love because, well, your name's in it. As I said, you're doing well and big enough to have your name in a podcast, which is huge.
I don't know about that. Listen, World of Wonder was kind enough to let me do this strange experiment, and it was going to coincide with season 2. By the way, I should say my husband Michael, we were watching And Just Like That, and I was also constantly just a million text threads about it. It was consuming my, life. He was like, you should do a podcast and call it Just Like Matt. And that was the entire pitch, was just like, well, we got a title. And,
You have to be
I do
pretty
have to
big,
talk
though.
about it.
World of Wonder won't even call me back. And I've had pretty much every drag queen imaginable on one of my 2 shows, but World of Wonder is like, get fucked, which is totally fine. So it's not
Well,
peanuts, again, like
it's
I'm saying.
no, I love them, and we'll have you
They're
on
great.
Just Like Matt, so that we can remind them what a star you are.
Thank you so much. I mean, my dream would be to be a guest on Just Like That, and also Drag Race.
And it's also, I mean, fittingly, it's also like a call to action. And Just Like Matt, it's like, just like me, please. Just give up and like me. I know you want to. I know
Who
you think
doesn't
you
like
don't.
you? What are you talking about?
I'm kidding.
The lies. Okay,
But,
so tell me though, were you always a Sex and the City fan?
oh yeah, big time. And it was, I mean, its heyday was sort of like, I'm in college in New York, and then I'm moving to LA. So I missed a lot of that, just because that's the one time in my life that I didn't care about TV.
Same. You and I are the same. So I was at boarding school, maybe a year younger than you.
I think
And then I went
all
to
but more than
school.
a year.
And then I went to school in New York, but I had like we bought like the DVDs. So I didn't watch it live. Also, like my parents were never not once paying for HBO. Get out of here. So I saw it later, but then I like binged it pretty like in the same time frame, but
Yeah.
like on my Dell computer. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And so it was like, as it was wrapping up, I was just ramping up into my obsession with it, because it was like starting to reflect my life, where, I'm running around a new city, like I was in LA, looking for love. And my friends were my first loves, and they were the ones that I was processing all the heartbreak with every day, just like our gals. So yeah, I was
At
always
Kitchen 24.
obsessed. Of course. I mean, I'm actually a little too old for Kitchen 24. I overlapped with it a little bit, but God, we were going to God, I don't know, just some shitholes that aren't there anymore.
So many shitholes. WeHo doesn't even look the same. It doesn't even look the same from when I lived there.
Yeah, it's really something now.
So who were you most identifying with when you were watching it when you first moved to LA?
Carrie, obviously.
Mm.
I mean, part of that is just the main character syndrome that I think so many of us have. But it was also like, she was a creative, and she was the seeker, and she was the one who was never, couldn't settle down, but was always looking for love. And that was so my story, especially when like I didn't have a career to speak of. I sort of poured all my energy into just the real life drama around like dating guys and breakups and chasing them and getting my heart broken and all that bullshit.
So to back up to season 1 and Just Like That, before it even came out, like how excited were you?
So excited, and tried very hard to manage my expectations, because obviously I knew that Kim Cattrall wasn't going to be in it.
What do you make of all that? What's your over-under on the Kim Cattrall versus the cast fight?
Well, I'm for sure team SJP, if there are teams, and I believe SJP would say that there are not, because she's a dignified person. But
there are teams.
There are teams, and I have a clear allegiance. Listen, I think everything you need to know about Kim is, again, love her so much. Said so many times, like part of the reason to do the podcast was just like an overture to her to win her back, as if I have the power single-handedly to bring her back into the fold. Hasn't worked. She has blocked me on Instagram.
Has she?
But she has.
Wait, what?
I know.
Kim Cattrall blocked you on Instagram?
She did. Me and the podcast account.
What were you doing on there?
Nothing. I think there may have been one post that was a, I don't know, Samantha related thing that I tagged her in, maybe, but it wasn't, but it was complimentary. I don't even remember what it is. I'm sure she gets those all the time.
To
I
go
think
in and physically block someone and your producer is pretty like.
it's pretty bold. But well, do we think she's physically doing it, or do we think she's got like an assistant that's
No, I think
doing
she
the
does it.
blocking? You think she does? I mean,
I think more
I
famous people control their Instagrams than you think.
I think she it maybe listened to not an episode, but just like the opening credits. And at the time, I think we changed it, but I think at the time we had little opening credits, and I said something like, "The mission of this podcast is to bring Kim Cattrall back full time." And again,
The
that's an
story
act
is
of
unfolding.
love.
The story
But
is unfolding.
she might have thought that I was like a psychotic stalker, and she needed to block me for her own safety.
Wow.
That's obviously not the case. But what I will say is, what happened between them? Why is there bad blood? Whatever. I think everything you need to know comes back to that famous scatting video.
I was gonna say the same thing.
It's like
It's
I'm
unhinged.
sure nobody needs a primer on what it is, but it's
Well, I just gave it.
that's it. Liz did it. It's Kim scatting, and
It's
I just
unhinged. It's unhinged.
it's so eccentric. It's like someone who doesn't see that as being just batshit crazy is going to just have a different way of moving through the world and relating to her colleagues.
No, and I mean, as silly as we're being, but I actually think you're right. I think not having the wherewithal to understand on how many very obvious but also nuanced levels how fucking unhinged doing that like recorded is shows you how perhaps there are two different sides, but then like actually one sort of real perspective, like real
one
story.
reality.
One reality, thank you. But I would also say is her interview at the Actors Studio was also pretty telling. I don't know if you watched that.
I haven't watched it.
This happened a long time ago, right after, see, this is why you have to have me as a guest. This happened right after she was on, when the original show, I think when the second, did she do both movies?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So when the second movie ended and she was just like, yeah, I'm fucking straight off these people. But the way that this is sort of when it all jumped off, because this is when she basically was like, I think she's like an evil, horrible person, like a mean girl. That was the interview, was at the Actors Studio with James Lipton, which is crazy to do in front. I went to the new school, having a bunch of like kids who want to be actors sitting there being like, what? Like, this is not what we were asking for.
Yeah, they don't want like backstage gossip.
I mean, I do all the time.
I mean, of course, 100%. But that's not the point of Yeah,
so you are blocked from Kim Cattrall, which is fucking amazing. Honestly, I don't think it's a successful podcast unless you're blocked by somebody, but that's my opinion. You watched the first season and just like that, did you think they were going to get another one?
Yeah, for sure. It was just, it was like everyone is talking about this, and not always lovingly. I obviously am a fan and a defender. And when I went in to do the podcast, it was like there's already plenty of people, going off on the internet about this show, making fun of the show. That is no longer a hot take. Like, my hot take is I love this, and I am just so happy to be with my friends in any capacity, even if they're not all here. Just I'll take it.
I feel like the morning show and just like that season 2 compete to be the most like borderline AI generated scripts that I've ever seen. It's like just throw in any zeitgeisty thing of the last however many years and make a storyline. I mean, the alcoholism with Miranda. Like, why do they need to make her a drunk lesbian? Like, many exist, but did she need to be both? Unclear.
Yeah, she had one too many disasters happening at the same time. Alcoholism, coming out, starting a new career, getting divorced. It was just like...
Also, Brady is so annoying. That's the only thing.
You think? Oh, I love Brady.
Yeah, he's annoying. I mean, the daughters, Charlotte's daughters are like having a non-binary child having sex, like it just like the weed brownies, the like,
Mm.
it's just, it's a lot. It's like, where are they gonna go, Matt? Where is
Um,
season 3 gonna go? Where is Che? Che also, I mean, have you had Che on your show? You've got to get
no,
them on your show.
listen, they ain't interested.
Yeah, they're not. But if they were to be open to at least admitting how insane, I actually applaud how unlikable Che is, because I think every show needs a villain. And I know insufferable queer people like that. Like
Especially stand-ups. Thank
insufferable.
you. Yes,
So
yes.
I love it because it's very realistic. And I also, the fuck boyery of it all, the like, there's just the comedian just being a fucking, just the word. Like that scene in the bar where Miranda's sitting there and Che is just like ripping Miranda to shreds is just perhaps Emmy worthy.
Oh,
Unclear.
listen, it may be. Everyone is so upset that Che was not a funny stand-up, and I'm like, as you said, like that's so real to me. The amount of comedians that I've had interview on Homophilia where I was like, this person has a special. Are you kidding?
Okay, Matt, we've said it many times on Cool Cool Cool. I've said it many times on the Taylor Strucker Show. I've even said it Sirius XM, the news with John Hill. Comedians are 9 out of 10 a major disappointment on a podcast. Like,
yeah,
and the fact that they had a podcast.
they would have a podcast. You know, I
I
stand by
mean,
it.
do you think Carrie is a good podcast host?
I think that she had a lot of potential. I was disappointed they did away with Carrie's podcast so quickly.
Well, and but I did sort of love, that's why, like, I'm like, damn, is this like AI chatbot? Like, even like LinkedIn news, it felt like. It's like, there's no ad revenue. Like, we can't sell ads. Like, we're closing down. I'm like, oh, this hits real close to home.
Yeah,
You know,
a
it
a
really
little
does.
too close. Um, yeah, I don't know. By the way, in the podcast studio that they shot in, there was in the control room a poster on the wall that some eagle-eyed friend saw, paused, zoomed in. It was this real poster that an artist had done. It was like Earwolf's 10th anniversary, and Homophilia used to be on Earwolf, and so all the hosts had a little drawing version of themselves on it, and Dave Holmes and I were in there. So I exist in the universe of it just like that.
What? That's
Yeah,
crazy.
I know. It's my greatest honor and greatest achievement to
Wow.
this date. You know,
That's a huge one.
thank
That
you.
alone, no wonder you just got the show from your name and
Yeah, people were begging for it. They were like,
begging. So who's your I know Carrie is your longtime favorite, but there's quite a robust new cast of characters and just like that, which a
mm-hmm.
lot of diehard fans had a problem with. I mean, I think one of the biggest critiques was that in the original series, you would have the 4 girls, and yes, you would have Steve and even little Brady and the nanny and even Big, but they would never have an entire episode dedicated to them. They would never have multiple scenes dedicated. Like,
Yeah.
we didn't really get to see either their perspective or a whole episode on them. Do you have a favorite new kind of cast member from And Just Like That?
I mean, it's got to be Seema, Sarita Chowdhury, she's a little bit the surrogate Samantha,
Yeah.
but she's so much more than that too. I love her friendship with Carrie. I feel like I like all the new characters, including Che for the most part. There were just too many of them. There's
I
just
felt
too.
like it was heavy. It was
We had to
top
spread
heavy.
ourselves too thin because the more time we're going to spend getting to know Lisa Todd Wexley, the less time we have with Carrie and Charlotte, the people that we are attached to from 25 years ago. So I predict that there will be like I don't know. I bet not all of them will come back in season 3. And I think that will help the show.
You think?
I think, I mean,
Do you know?
no, I don't know anything, please.
Like the
They
girl that
all,
lives downstairs with her weird jewelry line that gets the apartment? I don't give a fuck.
yeah, we might have said goodbye to her. I would be surprised. I mean, Karen Pittman, who plays Naya, the
Of
professor,
course.
she is on the morning show. And like it was so clear, especially in season 2, that she was just so busy. They couldn't like get scenes with her. So they had all of these little mini scenes where she's like just fucking a random guy in bed, or, they were just trying to like get whatever they could from her. But I predict that she will simply be too busy to come back. And I also feel like after everything
But
that's
then we
happened with
got to have a
Jay,
whole storyline of where she went. You see what I'm saying? It's
no,
like,
yeah, we don't need that.
you don't think they will?
No, I think you're right, but I don't think we know. Here's my real fear for both, and just like that season 3 and morning show, I guess would be season 4. My fear is that because, like you're saying, both of them are so sort of concerned with speaking to the zeitgeist. I worry that they will feel the need to address Israel. And
The morning show having to relive every fucking thing that
every
we just went
nightmare.
through 2 years later, pandemic, Elon, all of a sudden we basically have Elon Musk in the show, which
Yeah.
I was like, thanks a fucking lot. Like,
Mhm.
I mean, crazy corporate and like the morning show, I'm like, I don't want to talk about this anymore. I
Exactly.
don't want to talk about the pandemic. The insurrection, the fact
Yes.
that Bradley saw her brother at the end. Why the fuck was she? It was so off the Richter scale, out of control. The insurrection alone was beyond. And the fact that that's like where we ended. I mean, I have a lot of, listen, do I watch every single episode of the morning show? Will I watch every single episode of the morning show? Yes, I will.
Of course.
But
Of course.
it just got so, like the fact that we were going to space in the first episode, I was like, why are we in spacesuits? Like, what?
I'm gonna say something shocking. I haven't seen the morning show season 3 yet, and just to let you know, the one thing that I'm
Sorry.
even more obsessed with. No, please, you haven't spoiled anything, because this is what everyone's saying about it. I'm such a Jennifer Aniston fan. To like, here's my Jennifer Aniston coffee mug that's on the table. Here's a random Jennifer Aniston mask that someone gave me. My Jennifer Aniston calendar's
You
over
really
there.
are a
Like,
Jennifer
I'm
Aniston fan.
psychotically, I love her so much. I mean, a true perfect human. But I'm behind on the morning show. I don't know, what can I tell you?
Well, let me tell you, it's a lot of this.
Liz is making some savage faces, listeners.
Obviously, I'm going to make a video out of that. It's crazy. It's unhinged. I mean, are they filming and just like that yet?
No, I think they just started writing it, because and they just published somewhere that it's not going to come out till 2025.
Goodbye.
So we got
who even knows who I'll be?
Yeah.
Well, hopefully all the kids will be too old and they're in college, so we don't have to fucking deal with Brady and whatever Charlotte's kids' names are that I don't care about. I mean, the Ralph Lauren modeling storyline, I just like literally can't care less. I mean, even the best was Charlotte. Model. What'd you say?
Even as a former model, you couldn't connect to that.
Exactly. I will also say, though, that I loved watching Charlotte get like piss drunk and just like lose her mind. That was great, actually.
She's the revelation for me. Like, Charlotte, I am having such a like renaissance love affair with now. And even just like rewatching old episodes of Sex and the City, because when you're young, nobody aspires to be a Charlotte. You want to be a Carrie or a Samantha.
See, I wanted to be a Charlotte. Can I throw the monkey wrench? Yeah. Upper East Side, taking care of art dealer, but doesn't have to work. Banging body. Just like got the Oscar de la Renta and the Valentino on lock. Plays tennis. The fuck? Get out of here. That's my dream. I'm like, get me out of here. I mean, I'm definitely probably the most like Carrie. But like, and I guess maybe a little bit like Miranda. Miranda's fashion, much better. I always used to say no to Miranda because of the fashion. This season, I like it a lot. But yes, Charlotte is number one stuns. She figured it out. She was like, yeah, her husband worships her. She has a dog.
Yeah. And she's the best friend that anyone could ever ask for. Like, just for the moment alone that like Big left Carrie at the altar and Charlotte was holding her and said, no. I mean, that's
how I am, though. I'll kill a bitch in the street. I'm very loyal. I think that's what I'm saying. So funny. People are like, oh, what are you? Charlotte. That's my number one pick. Always has been.
I love her so much.
Love an A-line because she's got a little bit of a booty. I mean, obviously I'm a lesbian, so I'm like in love with her as well. So that's a whole nother confusing layer, but it's all fine. If you were to write yourself into And Just Like That, because you are auditioning, you have a very successful podcast on World of Wonder, what would your character be?
God, it's such a good question because like me as a podcaster, like that ship has already sailed. Like we've already told that story, several times over on the show. So I don't know what else could reflect real life. I mean,
doesn't have to be real life. You would write a character for it. You could be a character.
I know. I just don't have that good enough an imagination for that.
I'll do it.
Go.
Okay. You are a very snarky tech entrepreneur that started a gay male dating site that uses chatbot AI, and you sold it for $1 billion, and you are now looking for the perfect apartment that Seema has to find for you. But then Carrie is lonely and can't figure it out because Aiden lives on a farm with his kid that does mushrooms and can't figure his shit out. And Seema's like, I have a new bestie. And then you come in and then you are great and you're like super chic and super snarky and you're like looking in Tribeca because like, why not? Like, meat packing, maybe, but like, who cares? And then all of the gay boys in their life are really jealous of you. And then we find out that like Samson has been like messaging you from India because now you're thinking about doing a new wellness app that uses chatbot AI to bring us all together.
Okay, mic drop. It's done.
How was that? That was just off the cuff.
Another perfect season 3 story for them. I'm in. Michael Patrick, if you're listening, as my best friend, just know I'm available. And so is Liz.
Oh yeah, my character would be Upper East Side mom, but like is queer, which is like edgy for Charlotte.
Yeah.
And I throw the best dinner parties in town. And she starts hearing about it, and all the girls want to get invited to my party, but they have to like win me over to come. But like, I have one foot in the cool lesbian world and like one foot in like the metropolitan art scene. So like nobody knows what to do with me. But then Miranda falls intensely in love with me. But I'm like,
yes.
I don't know, but I'm divorced. That's right. And my ex-wife is super rich and like also created something with chatbot AI. And it's just like, what are we going to do?
So all chatbot AI is involved in every one of these pitches, as it should be. That's brilliant.
Honestly, hire me. Like,
let's go.
Like, your character was pretty realistic.
It's pretty great. I mean, I want both of those stories. I knew that mine was going to like bend towards stalker a little bit, and you got there. Like, you know what I mean? Just because
I put a darkness in there. I wove a little darkness in there.
Yes, and we needed it. Like we had to turn on this guy at some point because
But I wove you into multiple characters and what they do. So
I know.
You're welcome.
So they're going to need to keep me around all season long.
At least for 2 episodes. That's all we can ask. Treat them mean, keep them keen. Matt, despite even technical difficulties that we experienced, you've been a gem.
You're such a delight. I am going to shake you down after the holidays to make you come on the show and talk about the art lesbian episode of Sex and the City.
If you didn't, it would be homophobic. So
yeah, and I don't need that. I don't need that title attached to me.
None of us do, Matt. Isn't Matt sweet? Just love that Matt. I didn't know if Matt was going to like me. I think Matt likes me. I don't know. You'll have to tell me what you think. If you want to watch the full episode, make sure you head on over to my Patreon and definitely check out And Just Like Matt. I'm hoping he sticks to his word and I am a future guest.